It's the second of 2 away trips to the South Coast in a row. Can Ipswich Town finally get the first win on the board this season against familiar opposition? This is Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Seb, this time last year, the day we record this, if you're giving up your Thursday, thank you for joining us. If you're listening after the fact, we are recording on a Thursday night. This time last year, Seb, at about 1 minute past 8, what were you doing?
Yeah, I didn't twig. We didn't cover Southampton last year because they were 2 night games. And yeah, 366, is it leap year? I don't know. A year ago tonight, we were witnessing Amari Hutchinson closing down Southampton, playing Russell Martin ball out from the back. And then a lovely dummy by George Hurst was it. And then he fired home, didn't he? And it was did we beat somebody? We beat somebody at the weekend. I can't remember who it was. I think it was a 9-point week. And we started to think, wow, this might be a really impressive season. So hopefully that's a good omen for us recording tonight with what's going to follow on Saturday in 48 hours' time.
Indeed, the shirt I'm wearing, last season's shirt for those listening. I'm trying to harness the spirit of 23-24, try and harness the spirit of Marcus Stewart and Mark Venus as well. Shout out to the guys who did Blue Monday Rewind this week as well. But we're here to talk about Southampton. Let's say hello to the chat. Philip, first up, gets his name on there first through the door. Good to have you with us. Paul is here as well. Happy with a point, but would take 3. Sums it up pretty well. Mentions Southampton's good spell against United is Ed, one of our Telegram VIPs, I think. Obviously, he says, we're not in must-win territory. More on that later at this stage of the season. But for Southampton, yet to get off the mark, I feel like their fans may be thinking that. Yeah, Ashley, massive opportunity. He's saying Saturday evening to Streaky, Andreas as well. Philip, I can hear the chance of you're getting sacked in the morning. Oh, blimey. Hashtag goodbye, Russ. Wow. Philip's going big early doors, and I'm all here for it. Evening to Southampton, evening to Tim, who's very much a sense, Seb. We'll talk about Russell Martin later. Let's not go too far. There's a lot of love for him in our chat. I don't know why. Horse Seller, evening to you. I don't think this game will be straightforward, but we have a great chance. I think sums it up. We can probably end it there, can't we, Seb? No, we're going to give you the insights. Don't worry, folks. Rando's not well. Man flu is struck. Saturday isn't a must win. It's a must not lose. There you go. Can you translate that for us, Seb? I'm not sure.
Jamie is Sam's son. Actually, I need a bit of favour from the chat. I'm doing Forest corporate in a few weeks' time with my boss, who is a Forest fan, and Jamie is his grandson, and he's been told he has to support Forest. And I've said, not a chance. He's my Ipswich ally for the day because he came with me to watch Mustafa Carriol destroy Preston in 2019. So everyone in the chat, please point out that Jamie has to at least wear some sort of Ipswich colouring on the day and be my ally at the at Forest corporate in a few weeks' time.
Jamie for Ipswich. That is what we want. Matt is here as well. Seriously, is that Sarmiento moment ever going to get beaten? I generally still haven't got over it. The biggest high I've ever experienced. I've got a little bit of framed artwork behind me, which there is the finger. And so is Seb as well. Matt's got a point, hasn't he, Seb? I mean, in terms of big matches, big moments, big celebrations, that is going to take some beating, isn't it? Maybe when we do it to Arsenal or Man City at Portman Road later in the season, perhaps. I don't know.
I wasn't there. I missed it. I watched it on telly. Obviously, I had to donate my ticket to Mullet. He's got into following Ipswich Town recently, so he doesn't get to many games. So I lent him my ticket for the evening. I watched it on Sky, and yeah, as soon as that goal went in, I was dancing around my living room. It was crazy. We went to Vegas the next day, weren't we? Chanting the Sarmiento chant in the departure lounge, and pretty much most of the way through Heathrow. Yeah, what an evening. Yeah, up there with the Bolton game for me. The Magilton third goal equaliser when Mowbray knocks it down and Magilton fires home. Those 2 moments, both under the lights at Portman Road, certainly in my lifetime are the most memorable by far.
There you go. Evening to Timothy. Afternoon from Billings, Montana. Great to have you with us, Timothy. We've got a lot of international listeners, viewers this week. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved. Before we get to Southampton, we need to talk about ITFC Women, who are back in action this week. Gwalia, Seb. I trust that's the correct pronunciation. You'll correct me because they're playing Cardiff, who were formerly Squalia, now formerly Cardiff Women. Town top of the league, having, as I mentioned on the flagship to Ben, without kicking a ball. Exeter lost. I think hashtag end up throwing away a win at Cheltenham as well. So Town top on goal difference and now have a game in hand on everyone apart from AFC Wimbledon as well, going really well in the league. Gwalia, it's a weird name, isn't it? That does that name
Evening Welsh listeners?
Yeah, well, correct me if I've got it wrong.
I have no idea.
I thought Seb would help me out, but
I'm not Welsh, and I live in North Wales, so my Cardiff knowledge is next to none. I'm afraid. Sorry to disappoint.
Okay, well, we're going with Gwalia or Gwalia. I don't know. That sounds more Welsh, doesn't it? I don't know, but they're currently 9th, 4 points from 5 games played. Only scored 3 so far, conceded 11. So Town favourites for that one, but got to go there. It's a long old journey, 4 hours, I think. I assume they'll stay overnight Saturday as well, but on a good run of form, Town off the back of that 5-0 win against Lewis, a weekend off as well, hopefully recharged and ready to go on the weekend, and hopefully positive stories to talk about for them on Sunday. Let's deal with Southampton. Early doors, so let's just jump straight into it. I'm trying to think of a headline of this apart from two teams who are in desperate need of a win and in points, two teams who will be keen to take points off each other. But as we say, that last season, fresh in the memory as well. A lot of good history. The guys that we mentioned, Blue Monday Rewind, talking about the Marcus Stewart hat trick. There's the Mark Venus Long Ranger. I think the 3-1 at Christmas time, was it? In the home version of the 3-0.
Alan Armstrong's debut.
That was it. Yeah, it was a good good game, that one. But then flip side, Chris Marsden making us look like absolute mugs. What is your headline take on Southampton going into this one?
Well, it's probably the easiest game, second easiest game of the season for us, and probably the easiest game of the season for them. Is that too much of a simplistic way of looking at it? You know, our easiest game would be them coming to Portman Road. We're off to St Mary's at the weekend. So therefore, in theory, it's a great chance for us both to kickstart our season. Obviously, they are on 0 points. Spoiler alert. We've got a couple on the board already. Can you call it a relegation 6-pointer at this stage? I think you probably can. It's, you know, these are the games we have to pick up points and we have to win. You know, it's been a great start. You know, you're right off the Liverpool game, you're right off the City game. Really good performance against Fulham. Unexpected point last time out. But in this run of games we've got coming up now, we need to start picking up points. And Saturday is probably the easy, the best chance, shall we say, of doing that for the next kind of 5-6 weeks, I would say.
He's used the E word too many times there, folks.
I
had a chat on Radio Suffolk after the Brighton game. My view is if you can pick up the odd point here and there on the road, that's great. Win your home games. I think stopping Southampton win on Saturday is actually a really good outcome for us for that kind of reason that you talk about. Of course, it's a game that on paper we should, in terms of the level in comparison to Brighton, blimey, and Man City, our last 2 away games, this is obviously one that's much more within our grasp and our reach and our level. And any scoreline is really possible on Saturday, isn't it? And a Town win is just as plausible for me as a Southampton win or a draw. But if we don't get that win, just as Rando, I think it was Rando 123. I've forgotten his first name now. Apologies, Rando. Not losing is a good outcome for me as well. Am I too negative?
But you look at what's to come. It's then Villa at Portman Road, which is a tough game, and then West Ham away. And this is, to me, is a much easier away game than West Ham. And then you're into the second international break, the October break. And I don't think you want to be going into that one without a win on the board. So that's why I see it as certainly not as a must win, but a very big game and one that James is right, Rando's right. Don't lose, but I think we've got to win this one, given what's to come in, before the international break. And after that, we've got the likes of Everton coming to Portman Road and Leicester on the horizon and Brentford. So again, the fixtures do look a little bit more appealing. But if we can go there, get a win, be on 5 points going into, Villa and then West Ham, and if we pick up 2 points from those games or whatever, or get a win against one of them, we're in a really, really healthy place going into that international break, aren't we?
Neil's quoting our former manager. Every point's a prisoner. If I offered you a draw, would you get on? Would you not even bother getting on the bus?
No, I'd go. I wouldn't take a draw in this one. I'd go and play the game and see what happens. Brighton last week, completely different kettle of fish. Some idiot on this podcast predicted goals, and that's an exceptional. And
And
a
a
defeat.
defeat.
That's an exceptional point. You know, that was a really, really good, hard-fought point. This one, if you offer me a point, no, I'd say let's play the game and let's see
Bring it
our
on.
best versus their best and see which way it falls.
Bring it on. Good stuff. Seb, ramping up the pressure, me more chilled out entertainer. You've mentioned 0 points on the board for Southampton so far. Do you want to give us the state of play for their season so far?
Yeah, played 4, lost 4. They are second bottom only to Everton in the league. Only scored 1 goal so far this season, conceded 8. The defeats, they had Newcastle on the opening day, which was a 1-0 defeat, which doesn't sound bad, but when you factor in the fact that Newcastle were down to 10 men for over an hour of the game, that's not great. I think then a really damaging defeat at home to Forest. I know Forest went to Anfield last week and won, but in the second game of the season, a side like Forest at home is a kind of game you've got to pick up points.
Really crap goal, which we'll talk more about as well there.
Yeah, really poor. Brentford away, lost 3-1.
Too.
Yeah, again.
Some crap goals in that.
Some crap goals conceded. We will discuss Russell Martin and his style of play and maybe his stubbornness in what they're going to be doing this season. But again, you know, Forest and Brentford are teams that you have to look at with big red circles on the calendar and suggest we should be looking at points there. And they played okay against Man United for the first half an hour, but then they miss a penalty last time out. They lose 3-0, and that's why they are where they are. We know Russell Martin is very, very high on possession.
Is he?
They average 63% possession so far this season, which is second to only Spurs. So this is going to be a game at the weekend where we're not going to have much of the ball. It's going to be they'll do what they do. They've created 8 big chances so far this season, but only scored the 1 goal. And this interested me. They've had 118 touches in the opposition box, which is actually 7th. So I'm kind of getting this vibe that between their box and the opposition's box, they're pretty good. They're pretty slick. It looks quite nice. It looks quite attractive, but then they're crap at defending in their own box, and they're even crapper at finishing in the opposition box. And that's where it all starts to fall apart. So that's what I'm kind of taking away from it. The XG is just about 5 or so, only scored the 1 goal, but the penalty last weekend will slightly inflate that. But yeah, they seem to be okay at creating chances, but they just simply don't take enough.
Can you give us some insights from the Man United game? As you say, it sounded like for a half an hour, really good. Got the penalty, well-deserved penalty. We'll talk more about the youngster who won that penalty later on as well. But when it goes wrong for Southampton, it seems to maybe it's a hangover from their relegation season. You kind of psychologically, and I know Russell Martin has talked about this, and maybe come for some criticism for talking about it so openly. But when they suffer one setback, another tends to follow. And even we saw that in the Portman Road game last season. You concede the equaliser, you then get James Bree sent off, and then you can't hold out for a point. Are they one of these teams, Seb, that maybe is a little bit mentally weak, perhaps?
It sounds like it. It sounds like us for all those years, doesn't it? You know, where you just knew that if we were holding out, or if a team scored against us, we weren't really going to get back in the game. Or if we were holding on for a draw going into the closing games and we conceded a goal, then you'd be thinking, right, we're going to lose this now. It just seems to be that slightly soft underbelly and that slight kind of lack of mental resilience, I guess, which maybe is one to go with. It was a 3-0 defeat last time. They actually won on penalties in midweek. They made 9 changes against Everton on Tuesday night. 1-1 draw.
Did you watch
Drew
it?
on penalty. No, I didn't watch it. No, Drew on the night, went 1 on penalties. Russell Martin made a lot of changes in that game to get some minutes into the legs of kind of squad players and look to change things up a little bit. But the last time in the league, was that 3-0 defeat. Looked good for the first half an hour, won a penalty. Tyler Dibbling we'll discuss slightly later on. And then, you've got Ben Beerton Diaz, who is a good penalty taker for some reason, wasn't put forward for it. Cameron Archer takes it. He scored a couple for Southampton in the League Cup against Cardiff, I think it was, earlier in the season. Decides to take it. Rubbish penalty. Anana makes a really easy save, and it's a really weak header back into his arms. And that was their last shot on target for the game. And United run out kind of 3-0 winners. You know, they conceded from a set piece. They were just bossed on the possession front, which is strange for them. It was 56% possession for Man United, which is strange given that Southampton like to keep the ball. And then they get their captain sent off for a horror tackle with kind of 10, 15 minutes to go. A really poor tackle.
This is making a bad situation even worse, isn't it?
Exactly right. Yeah, they had 6 shots, 3 on target. United had 20 shots and 5 big chances created. So, a really bad day at the office after what would have been an encouraging first half because, United haven't started this season that well. If you score that early penalty, all the pressure is suddenly back on Ten Hag and this group of players, isn't it? And you never know what could happen. But, they missed the penalty. That's a setback. And then they just seem to implode from that point onwards.
And as Neil mentioned, Russell Martin doing is we need to stop talking about. I've got Ben's voice in my head, like, leave it, Rich, leave it. But we're going to talk more about him. But he mentioned the stadium. We kind of talked about that that mental fragility, that's not just going to be the players. The fans have got much longer memories and some really difficult, challenging memories. A few seasons kind of just hovering above the circling the drain in the Premier League, wasn't it, until the inevitable relegation.
Was it the fans' fault last week? I can't remember what it
was.
was.
Well, as Neil said, he quoted the aura or the feeling in the stadium changed. Or
it's the environment,
like
right? Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
it's hard to keep up. Hard to keep up.
I've started a message about Russell White. We'll come back to that one. We've been very scathing and quite critical so far. Do you want to remind us of a good season they had? Not quite as good as ours. So if you're a Southampton fan, we're not usually this snide and snarky. It's just your manager kind of brings out on us. But there's a good return from last season. So quite, a squad you'd expect, quality and a promotion out of, but it took them the hard way to get back, didn't it?
Yeah, playoff winners over Leeds in the final at Wembley. Finished fourth with 87 points. Strange season, wasn't it? Struggled to get to grips with Russell Martin's philosophies and styles of play. A couple of big defeats. Was it Leicester and Sunderland? I think with our 1-0 win sandwiched in between that in kind of the early autumn. Then this amazing unbeaten run, and then they kind of fell away again. And then we had that panic. Obviously, we beat them so late on the Sarmiento moment. And there was that panic where they were playing 4 times, I think, before we played Hull. And everyone kind of thought, well, if they win all those games, they might be 2 points behind us. But they kind of fell apart again towards it. I think they lost 3 on the bounce before the last day victory at Ellen Road that gave them a little bit of momentum going into the playoffs. It was a 3-1 aggregate win over West Brom in the semis, and then that victory over Leeds in the playoff final. So yeah, we have to, if we're going to criticise Russell Martin, we do have to give credit as well. It was his first season at that squad. Yes, it's a year 1 parachute payment side that you would expect to bounce straight back. But he's gone out there, he's beaten Leeds in the playoff final, so we do have to doff our cap somewhat and say, yep, fair play for that one. You've done well there. And yeah, they were a side that I was really impressed with in the Portman Road game for large spells of that. We'll discuss how they play. We'll discuss some of their key players shortly. But yeah, they were excellent on the night for a good hour or so of that game. This is a side that is, it's well drilled. The central midfield battle on the weekend, I think, will be crucial to how this game goes. And they showed in that Portman Road game they certainly do have a lot of quality.
They do, and some good individual players in there. But I guess let's get this out of the way, and we can stop talking about him. Probably Russell Martin's favourite topic as well, on the basis of the chat. He's got a very strong philosophy. That's to his credit, and frankly, that's probably why he's gone to MK Dons, to Swansea, and I guess Southampton wanted a bit of that after maybe being a bit of a. I'm kind of looking at Stoke at the moment and thinking, what is Stoke? What is that? They've gone from Pulis Ball quite a long time ago, Mark Hughes, and then Nathan, what's his face, and Schumacher has just gone there, and they brought in the guy from Norwich. There's no real overall strategy there. I kind of have that sense with Southampton, but it's clear they favour this kind of way of playing. Their fans maybe demand it as well. So in that respect, he's a really excellent fit. And I guess when you've got quality players, better players than most of the division, a promotion out of the Championship isn't too much of an ask. Now, a level up, the question marks are going to be asked about him, aren't they, and his philosophy, and whether being so rigid and sticking to it is a good thing or not. Because I guess his argument, Seb, would be if he sticks with it and the players get it, the learning curve at the high level, they could go on and be really successful with it, couldn't they? Yep. The alternative, it's kind of, can I swear? It's shit or bust, really, with this strategy for me.
I think so.
Unnecessarily risky on his part?
Well, no, because he's probably looked at, Vincent Kompany, who played this way with Burnley last season, refused to kind of change his principles, and ended up getting the Bayern Munich job in the summer. I think some clubs now, if you fit the profile of how a club wants to play and you prove that you can drill that into a squad of players, I think that makes you quite attractive to clubs higher up the food chain. I've put a thing in the script here saying, are they going to be this season's Burnley? Because we saw time after time pundits criticising Burnley last year for not changing their philosophy, for not stopping playing out from the back, even though it conceded, it cost them a lot of goals and ultimately points. And just to throw a couple of stats at you, they are highest in the league for errors leading to opposition shots with 6, and they are highest in the league for errors leading to opposition goals with 4. So this strategy is costing them. But like you say, he's the kind of character who is going to stick by it, because he's obviously very well kind of, meaning in his principles. And we've seen that at the previous clubs he's played at. I think Am I being harsh to say I think he was lucky to get the Southampton job? You know, MK Dons 2 seasons, 1.34 points per game. Swansea 2 seasons, 1.35 points per game. This is not a manager who goes and smashes to the League One title with MK and gets moved to Swansea and gets Swansea in the playoffs and a narrow defeat and then gets a move to Southampton. I don't want to use the term failed upwards because it sounds harsh, but I think that he is perhaps fortunate to have got the Southampton job last summer based on the body of work, because he did virtually nothing at both MK and at Swansea. So yeah, he's very much a Marmite character, isn't he? People either like him or kind of loathe him. I think we had a chat off air early, didn't we? Are our views about him just simply skewed by the fact he was captain of that lot up the road during a successful time in their period when we were pretty crap? That probably does weigh into it. Let's be honest. There's no real argument there, but yeah, I think he's fortunate to have got this job last summer. Fair play, did a good job once he got it. But if it gets to November and they're still making these kind of silly mistakes, for example, and they're still in the relegation zone on relatively few points, I think his stubbornness might well cost him his job.
Yeah, a lot of similar feedback in the chat. Be nice, folks. I obviously a lot more than just results comes into recruitment of managers, doesn't it? Philosophy, and I'm sure he can talk a really good game about his strategy, and if someone buys into that, and Swansea and MK at that time were a really great fit. Results, yeah, I guess
they did nothing. Results, they did nothing.
I guess
Absolutely
so.
nothing.
I guess his argument though is that results will come. You establish processes and patterns. Yeah, okay. I'm trying.
At both clubs. He's got 4 years as a manager before Southampton. 1.35 points per game. That's all I'm
the other side of the argument, really, because I can see that the points per game is not great. MK was at 1.34, you said, and 1.3, 1.4 points per game. Teams, I think Swansea were maybe a parachute team at that point. MK certainly were well backed. Southampton did all right. I think one of the things that kind of sticks out for me really is the fans at Southampton. I think a lot of football fans get really bad press, and we know what we can see. We talk about the eye test a lot on this podcast. We can see stuff, and sometimes at the start of last season, in particular, Southampton were doing stuff they shouldn't have done, and it caught them out every now and then. And maybe if they'd not done that, they would have been comfortably automatics. You never know. But home record 5th best last season with Southampton, which is okay, I guess. Joint 5th best. Swansea, they had the 11th best home record, and before that, the 17th best in his first season there. MK 6th best. So I guess if you're a home supporter, you want to see your team win, and maybe that just doesn't happen enough. I don't know, but is that all we said about?
I think we're just going to agree, aren't we? He's a Marmite character. There's a lot of comments in the chat. Obviously, he divides opinion. Our views on him are skewed because of the fact he was captain of Norwich, and that's why. But yeah, I don't think he helps himself sometimes. I'm interested to see what he'll blame at full time if they do lose, because he's done the players, he's done the fans, he's done the environment. So I guess he's running out. Maybe it'll be the weather. Maybe it'll rain.
Let's move on to more positive matters. Our record against them looks good, and because Blue Monday Rewind looks at the Premier League era, and I guess we've already done it to an extent, we can talk about the games last season, particularly the game at St Mary's, which I guess is the kind of game that we want it to be Saturday. Give us the overall record, Seb, and remind us a little bit more about last season.
Yeah, so 27 wins for us, 20 draws between the two sides, and 23 Southampton wins. As we've alluded to at the start of the show, exactly a year ago tonight, we saw Amari Hutchinson score his first goal for the club, or he scored in the Carabao Cup, maybe, I'm not sure. In a 1-0 victory, they had a lot of the ball. We got a bit lucky. Didn't they have a shot that went off the inside of the post and right across the line, if I remember rightly? But I remember Harry Clark that night being immense. It was one of those games where they had all the ball. We kind of did what we needed to do. We had a really good, perfectly good goal disallowed as well from Burgess, didn't we? Yep. From a set piece, I think. So it could have been more. So yeah, that was a really, really encouraging victory. We all know about the 3-2 game. We'll go into that in more detail when they come to Portman Road later on in the season. We'll just basically play the Sarmiento moment for an hour and just all sit here in silence watching it. Our last game in the Premier League, as we discussed, Blue Monday Rewind. Go and check it out with Craig and Dave. The 3-3 draw in October, similar time of year, wasn't it? 2001. I think that game got moved. I think that was be earlier in the season, and I think they moved it. And I think Southampton had started really poorly at home. We saw that as a disadvantage advantage. I can't think why. That just came into my head when I was listening to it earlier. And overall, like last week at the Amex, our record at St Mary's is pretty decent. We've only lost to them once in the league since they moved there in 2001. There haven't been that many games, fair enough. We lost 1-0 in 2007. Apart from that, it's 2 wins, 4 draws, and that 1 defeat. So it is a relatively happy hunting ground for us, a bit like Brighton was last week, and we all know how that turned out.
So you're saying there's a chance?
That's got to be that's your bingo now.
Yeah.
If I say bodies and back on the grass, that's got to be your.
I'm just chucking it. I'm trying to come up with my own catchphrase, which I've stolen from Dumb and Dumber. Anyway, I remember a 1-1 draw at Southampton. David Norris scored the goal. I remember
a 2-0 win. Alan Lee got 2.
Yes,
was he on his debut?
Did that celebration? I think it might. Yeah. I think I posted those goals on Twitter. I'll look that up. But there you go. So we're clutching. Well, we're trying to find the positives. We found some. On the flip side, though, Seb, a lot of recruitment similar to ourselves. I guess the net spend may be a bit different, and some similar situations with the likes of Harwood Bellis. Had a really successful loan spell there. And another name that we know as well, who've made loan moves permanent. Talk us through the recruitment.
Yeah, 103 million quid. So a bit like us, they had to kind of tool up to go back into the Premier League after a season back down. I think they've spent a lot of money here to kind of stand still. I know we bought in, obviously, Amari for, 18 million rising, and that was a big chunk of our outlay, but they've spent over 30 million pounds on Taylor Harwood Bellis and Flynn Downs, and they were obviously both mainstays of the Championship promotion season last year. So that's an awful lot of outlay just to kind of, remain where you are. I guess Aaron Ramsdale is the other kind of big name. That's a big signing from a side that, okay, he's not really playing for Arsenal, but he's gone from a side that's chasing, certainly in the Champions League most years, chasing Man City for a title. He obviously wants to go and play football, so fair play to him for going to Southampton. He has got a history of relegations, obviously, at both Bournemouth and Sheffield United. He went there in a £19 million move. Cameron Archer, the guy that missed the penalty last week, he was sold to Sheffield United last summer. They go down. There's a buyback with Villa, have to take him back, and they've just flogged him to Southampton, £15 million. Matthias Fernandez has come in the number 10 role. Young player, £12 million from Sporting. Ben Brereton Diaz, we've already discussed. I think that's good value. £6 million for him. He looked decent in a really poor Sheffield United side. So I think that might be one of those buys that looks quite good at the end of the season. Maxwell Cornet on loan from West Ham. They spent a couple of million quid on Ronnie Edwards from Peterborough.
That's interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dara McAntony always raves about him, and I guess it was logical he would move on this summer. He's not had a look in so far in the league so far this season, but probably bought maybe with one eye on the future. I'm guessing, given the Russell Martin, he likes his defenders to be comfortable and pass out from the back, etc. He very much fits that mold. So maybe one for the future. Adam Lallana.
There was a point where he was linked with Chelsea for 8 million quid, wasn't there?
Palace as well. I think Palace
a couple of summers ago. Was it Palace?
Yeah, I think Palace bid 8 million quid. I'm sure McAntony said that
on his weird situation there, isn't it? But
yeah, podcast. But I think he's going to the last year of his contract. That's why the fee is. I guess they kind of kept him last year going for a promotion or bust. Didn't make it, and they have to recoup the money. Forgive the pronunciations. I'm probably going to murder these names. In fact, you can do them. Who's the Japanese right back they've signed from AZ Alkmaar?
Yukinari Sugawara.
There you go. He's created 3 big chances so far this season. He's scored their only goal as well so far. A central midfielder on loan from Chelsea that were we ever linked with him, or was it just kind of internet speculation?
I can't remember. May have been one of Jacob's targets. I can't remember.
Was it? Right, okay.
Not. You mean Leslie Ogachukwu?
That's the one. Thank you very much. Yeah, joined on loan from Chelsea, central midfielder, made his debut against United, did play in the cup in midweek, so might get some more minutes at the weekend. And they've added a bit of experience as well. Adam Lallana, Ryan Fraser has rejoined after being on loan there last season, and left back Charlie Taylor has joined from Burnley. So they've had a bit of experience there as well. So spent a lot of money, but over a third of that was just to kind of stand still with Flynn Downs and Harwood Bellis joining. So yeah, I think it's surprising they've not upgraded the centre half options. You've got Stevens was sent off last weekend. They signed Harwood Bellis, and they've got Jan Bednarak, and they bought in Ronnie Edwards, but he's not a starter. And yeah, I looked at the stats. The Southampton side last year conceded 63 goals, which was only 2 less than relegated Birmingham. And they're going into this campaign with the same centre backs, which seems weird. We let in a lot of goals last year. We let in 57. We've signed Jacob Greaves. We've signed Dara O'Shea. We've looked to improve on those positions. So that to me seemed really weird. They spent all this money, but the centre halves are basically what they had 12 months ago.
Yeah, and some familiar names have departed. Che Adams and Stuart Armstrong on free transfers, haven't they? Alcaraz, who I think maybe started the season and then disappeared.
He went on loan to somewhere in Italy, I think. Yeah, went on loan. They sold him and
but Stuart Armstrong was lead assist maker, wasn't he, for them last season as well?
Yeah, and along with Adam Armstrong. Yeah, Stuart Armstrong played that lovely ball to Adam Armstrong for the second goal, didn't he, in the Portman Road game? And yeah, they let him go to Vancouver Whitecaps. They let him go on a free, and he signed in the MLS, which was a strange one. And then Jaden Makoma went on deadline day, £5 million to Brentford, potentially rising to 10. Russell Martin didn't seem that impressed with that one, but acknowledged it was really good value for the club,
Yeah, I mean, Downs is a good signing, isn't it? We were definitely close to that one by the sounds of it as well. There's no getting around that. That's a decent signing, certainly for Championship level, but even Premier League level. But other than that, I'm kind of looking at the chat and feeling, Joe's kind of asked the question how many of the Southampton players would get in the Ipswich 11. I'm not sure. I think our recruitment is pretty good in comparison to that. The quality there, Archer is a good player as well. No missed the penalty, but can play multiple positions, and
they've got a few with high ceilings, haven't they? They've got a few
I think that's
could
fair.
move on. Yeah, Archer, Ronnie Edwards potentially, Matthias Fernandez, the young number 10. They could all have potentially high ceilings, but is that what you need when you're looking to establish yourself in the Premier League? I'm not so sure.
And how are some of these players utilised? Seb, you mentioned some of them are not starters yet. In the system, is it a 4-2-3-1?
Well, I got all excited because I was looking at the opening 4 games of the season. In the first 3, it was a 3 at the back, more of a 5. The wing backs were quite deep, but I got excited thinking, brilliant, it's something different to talk about. But it wasn't. It's now, they changed it to a 4-2-3-1 for the Man United game last weekend. I presume that's because they've now completed their transfer business and they can look to kind of play the settled system that he wants to play. We've already discussed the possession, ridiculously high possession. They are second to only Man City in terms of short passes per game. They are the fewest. They're slow and intricate in their build-up play. They are second to only Spurs for the fewest long balls per 90, and they do press very well. So it's a 4-2-3-1, 2 kind of sitting midfielders, Downs and another. Fernandez probably in the 10, 2 wide players and 2 fullbacks who'd like to get forward.
And likely starters or players that you'd want to single out as being important for them?
I'm looking forward to Flynn Downs versus Morsey, the rematch. I think Joe mentioned it quite a few times, didn't he? Very rarely last year did any player get the better of Morsey, but Downs probably did for an hour or so of that game.
A little bit of the psychological battle as well. There's a few niggly fouls which you'd expect, but I think whenever there was an opportunity for Morsey to get in the referee's space, Downs seemed to be on the scene all the time as well, didn't he? So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. But it's not just Morsey anymore, is it though?
No, exactly. Yeah, I think central midfield is going to be absolutely crucial. Like we say, they did kind of boss that for large periods of that Portman Road game. I know by the end of it, we simply worked out that ball to Morsey, long ball over the top to Davis, resulting in the sending off and the goal. But there were large portions of that game they were in complete control in midfield. I've got a question for you that's been bugging me, and I don't know what the answer is. Would you rather have signed Flynn Downs this summer on a 3-4 year deal, whatever Southampton took him on, or have Calvin Phillips on loan for the season?
Oh,
I don't know what the answer is. I can't work it
question.
out. One for the chat as well. What would you rather do?
Yeah,
Flynn Downs for
I guess
3 to 4.
If it's Phillips getting anywhere close to his previous best, I think he's the better all-round player, isn't he? Downs.
But you've only got him for one. But you've only got him for one.
Yeah,
season.
True. But then I guess if you stay up, what you can do after that is exponentially higher. And you like the word ceiling. You've used it a few times. Our ceiling as a club, and therefore the level of recruitment you can do, increases exponentially by staying up for another season. And therefore, I think if Phillips is more of a guarantee of that, he's the better deal, even though you don't have the longevity. I mean, you might be able to sign him, Seb. He might want to stay and be, new deal for Leif Davis, new 5-year contract for Calvin Phillips, and we're in the Premier League for the next 20 years. Wouldn't that be lovely? The chat is chipping in, and I think there's
all in favour of
consensus. Colin, Phillips, Philip, Neil, Streaky, Calvin effing Phillips says Matt. Yeah, I think KFP. I love that. That's the new acronym for him. Yeah, there you go. Downs wanted to leave. See you. Oh, come on. Football fans have got long memories. Let's talk about someone else. We've dealt with Russell Martin. We've dealt with Flynn Downs. Who's next?
Okay, so in central midfield, he's likely to be partnered again by Leslie Okachukwu. He started last week against Man United. He played against Everton in the Cup in midweek, so he might well be the central body alongside Flynn Downs. If he doesn't, Joe Aribo could come back in. He was really good in that Portman Road game. In fact, I think he got subbed, and it was a bizarre substitution because he was really playing well that night before Russell Martin took him off. So he could come back in, or Will Smallbone is one of the other options. Cameron Archer likely to go through the middle. We've discussed the centre-backs, Jan Bednarak and Taylor Harwood-Bellis, because they've got Jack Stevens suspended. Kyle Walker-Peters, I think he played for England once. Likely to be the left back, yeah. Likes to get forward, 47% success dribble rate. And then 18-year-old Tyler Dibbling was kind of the success of the Man United game. So he started on the right of the three behind the strikers. He loves to take people on. He loves to run at people.
Looks like Jack Clark.
Yeah, 55% dribble completion rate, had a cut inside with his left foot, got a shot which Anana kind of tipped around the post, and he won the penalty. So he was kind of very much the bright spot. They spent all this money, spent 103 million pounds in the summer, but this 18-year-old lad has looked very, very impressive. So he could well be, he will start at the weekend, then he could be a threat for Leif Davis to have to worry about.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else? We mentioned Ramsdale. That's a great signing, real experience. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna provide a tactical or a statistical insight in a second, so I'll come back to the goalkeeper. Anything else we want to finish off on Southampton?
The stats have been quite daunting for the last few weeks. When we're discussing Man City, we're discussing Liverpool, the numbers just scare people, so we haven't really gone into too much forensic detail on them. Some positive stats to kind of boost our optimism going into this game. They are the only side yet to score at home in the league yet this season. They've only had 5 shots at home, which is the fewest in the league. They've only had 3 of those on target, which is the 3rd fewest. They have faced 22 shots, which is the highest in the league so far this season, and their 6.5 interceptions per game is the 4th fewest. So they appear to be very, very open, and they haven't scored a goal, but they don't really create much and don't really take many chances. So yeah, this could be hopefully this could be a positive weekend for us.
Yeah, those are the home stats, right?
Home stats, yes.
Yeah, and I've in general, and more of these at home than away. Their zonal marking situation is a bit of a mess. I mentioned the Forest goal. Watch the Brentford goals and hear the co-commentator slag off the style of play. By the way, the Man United goal, certainly, I think the 3rd, if I'm remembering rightly. 2nd phase is really static. The defensive line, it came up on Telegram last week. Some of our tactical experts in Telegram really drawing out their really poor defensive line for the Man United goals conceded. That cohesive unit there, not aided by the departure of Stevens for a suspension, could be something that we could profit from. And set pieces, they are poor at defending set pieces. They've conceded the most in the whole division from set pieces. That's 4. That's 50% of the goals they've conceded have come from set pieces. I know we're early doors in the season, but for me, given we brought in Mark Hudson as our set piece coach, real opportunity from the set pieces. We'll talk about Jacob Greaves later on. Maybe this is the opportunity for Jacob Greaves to get off the mark. Who knows? But yeah, there's Southampton. We're going to talk about us in a second, but we're first going to have hear from our friends at Wells.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to Atwells for their support of the podcast this season, and One Stop badges as well. You can get a 10% promo discount by clicking the link in the description. And I remembered this week, Seb, to bring my One Stop Blue Monday badges, which we will try and distribute to people. So if you come and find us, this weekend is too quick. I haven't managed to send a batch to our northern correspondent who will be at St Mary's. But Villa game onwards, good chance if you bump into one of the pod team, we'll give you a Blue Monday One Stop badge. So thank you to them for their support. As always, plenty of stuff coming up here on Blue Monday. We've mentioned Blue Monday Rewind that came out Tuesday with Dave and Craig talking about Southampton games from Premier League years gone by. You've got Mikey and Ben's predictions show and Flagship back. Usual time, usual trio talking about Southampton game after the fact. If you want to discuss the game in real time, the Telegram group is there for you. And we'll do a promo for merch at some point, but we're shouting out. We're closing into a couple of milestones. I mentioned a few of these. Please do give us a like. Massively important for the channel. Gets us out there through the algorithm and that kind of stuff, and does mean that we're closing in on our 1 millionth view since we moved to a separate YouTube channel. We used to be down Ben's channel. In 2020, we moved to our own Blue Monday channel, and there's a good chance that one of you is our 1 millionth viewer on YouTube. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate folks listening to us over on podcast as well. Please give us a 5-star rating and a review. We really appreciate those. And I think, Seb, that's all we've got to say on plugs and admin. So let's talk about Ipswich. Off the back of a really positive result at Brighton and a good second half. But we talked about the abundance of options that Kieran McKenna had last week. It's got even better this week, isn't it?
Yeah, Broady's back. Nathan Broadhead obviously went missing before the first trip abroad, was it? I think it was a behind closed doors preseason friendly game he got injured in, but he's back and could play some minutes this weekend. And if we had an emergency right back crisis, Harry Clark could probably play as well, so he's not too far away. So it sounds like that we've got a pretty much a full strength squad to choose from. They've been on the training pitch all week for this one. Southampton had the League Cup game against Everton in midweek. So whilst we were cursing when we got sent out of the Cup by Wimbledon a few weeks ago, that might turn out to be a blessing in disguise, because this has obviously been the first week with all the transfer players in the squad and all the international players around that McKenna's had to work with them. And it sounds like, yeah, we've got a completely kind of fit squad to choose from. And well, I think the back four and the keeper obviously now picks itself. Twanzebe was exceptional at right back last weekend, wasn't he? So no brainer there. Do you think Dara O'Shea starts again, or do you bring in Wolford? Harsh to drop O'Shea after a clean sheet away from home the first of the season, but equally maybe harsh to drop Wolfenden after some really strong performances, especially against Fulham. So I think he'll keep his place and he'll go with O'Shea and Greaves again. What do you think he'll do at centre back?
Yeah, I agree with you. I've always thought that the O'Shea coming in situation would happen at some point because of the fee.
Yeah.
And arguably he's got that Premier League experience, which is so vital for us. But it is harsh on Wolford, and as you say, but I think you've got to, whatever system has got you a clean sheet. And by the way, I think there was a lot of bitching on Match today about, the promoted teams haven't got as many points as blah, blah, blah. This is the second lowest in history for the promoted teams. I think someone said it took until like halfway into the season last year for someone to get a clean sheet from the promoted teams. So we've tipped that milestone off. I think that's a really powerful thing. I mentioned it. Seb and I are doing a BBC thing for Ipswich Town every few weeks, and making us hard to beat is a really good thing. You build from there, and I think whatever you've done to do a clean sheet, you just stick with it. And hopefully Muric has another great game as well. Further up the pitch, what are you thinking, Seb? I thought George Hurst could cameo, but it's the lap shirt at the moment, isn't it? And run himself into the ground for 60 minutes and bring on Hurst, albeit I think McKenna was very much impressed with Hurst pressing that forced Brighton into a tactical change. But probably the biggest debate is the left and right side, isn't it?
Well, if Burns is good to go again, he'll start. You know, the advantage of the Premier League is there's a lot less games. You don't really get many 3-game weeks at all. I know he's just come back from injury, but he's had the full week off to prepare for this one. So if he's good to go, I assume he will start in that specialist right-hand role with the pace of Ogbene to come off the bench around about the hour mark like he did away to Brighton. I think Hutchinson scored there last season, had a couple of great moments. He struggled a little bit in the first half, didn't he, against Brighton, but then had that lung-busting run towards the end that he got a shot off straight down the throat of Bruggen towards the end of the Brighton game. So I think he'll start in the 10. And then Sammy Szmodic was quite quiet, wasn't he? He struggled a little bit against Brighton. So Jack Clark came on. He's a ball carrier. He will get you up the pitch. I love him to bits. I think he will start in the left-hand attacking role this weekend. And then I guess you've got to discuss the crazy bench options that we might have. You know, if you have to fit Broadhead back on the bench, then you're going to be losing another quality attacker, and we might be in a world soon where Ben Johnson is potentially the only defensive outlet on the bench. Kayuste might be the only midfield outlet on the bench, and then it might just be full of attackers. And yeah, what do you think? Do you agree with the Clark and Burns shouts?
No, I think I like Benner a little bit more than Burns at the moment, I think. But maybe it's a case of Burns running himself. I didn't think Burns, he started well, but faded really quickly for me. He'll have benefited from a week on the training pitch, as it were. But I think in an away match, I think I prefer Benner and then Burns at home, perhaps. On the left-hand side, I like Clark. I really do. Got into some really great positions at Brighton and really frustrated by making the wrong
That one he
choice.
just smashed over the bar.
Yeah, there's one where George Hurst is kind of, you should have passed it to me.
Yeah.
I think that's the covalent bonds that we love to talk about on this podcast. That will come through familiarity, and not having a midweek cup game might be a blessing in disguise there. Let us know what you think in the chat, because we'll come back to your thoughts on lineups and so on in a bit, as well as we'll finish with predictions. I'll remember to do that this week, unlike last week. So do get your thoughts in on that, your lineups and your predictions. So what's your front four then? Delap up front, and who's behind him?
Burns on the right, Amari in the 10, and Jack Clark on the left.
Okay. I'm just going to be annoying and kind of do two fingers up to you and go Smodic, Hutchinson, and Ugbena. So there you go. That's what I think. Smodic, I've got a weird feeling about Smodic. I think this is a game for him. I'm sure someone, was it Philip in the chat, mentioned Smodic against Southampton last season. I don't know the stats, but if someone knows if Smodic scored against Southampton last, I think it's a shoot from range game. It's a set piece game. Bring it on. It's going to be exciting either way. As we mentioned, we're back on the Flagship Show to talk all about it afterwards on Sunday. Anything else Ipswich related before we talk about FPL, my favourite feature ever?
No, I don't think so. Go on, put me out of my misery. Get on with it.
Need to say a massive thank you to our friends at Brett Vale Golf Club. They are our sponsors and our partners for the FPL feature. Lovely. We've not yet played it, Seb. Mikey got a hole-in-one this week, by the way. I'm not sure he's publicised that particularly far and wide. I've got a hole-in-one as well, to my credit as well. So we need to get down to Brett Vale and have a round there.
Crazy golf doesn't count.
No, I'm afraid. Well, it's good practice for the putting green, maybe. But just down the road from Ipswich, A12, East Burcolt, near there. And they've got a couple of promos for us to publicise as well. New members on a second membership or an introductory offer of $499 to play from 1st of October through to the 1st of April. No joining fee. Or if you prefer the 19th hole, get £20, 24 pence on your club cards to spend in the bar when you quote Blue Monday. Head to Brett Vale's website for tee times and all that kind of stuff. There's a link in the description, brettvalegolf.co.uk. We thank them for their support of the podcast, and I can't delay it any longer, Seb. Let's have a look at the table. Boom! 65 to 37 on normal points. You did get a bonus point on Ipswich players, but it's not been another good week for you. Have you brought in Haaland?
No. I can't afford him. So what I did last week was I took out 2-goal Ollie Watkins to free up some funds to bring. I put in João Pedro, who didn't feature at all. Brilliant. Yep. I then freed up some more funds by removing Anthony Gordon. I don't think he did anything to bring in Mo Salah, because Mo Salah, I think, had tied Haaland's number of points so far this season. Liverpool then proceeded to lose 1-0 at home to Forest. He did nothing. I think I got 4 points for him. And I couldn't risk a double non-clean sheet with David Raya in goal and Saliba at centre-back. So I took Saliba out. I put Konza in, thinking that Everton won't score at Villa. They scored twice, and Saliba kept a clean sheet. So, yeah, I basically sat there watching football last weekend, and every single thing that could have gone wrong for my fantasy side did go wrong. So, brilliant. What a brilliant feature.
Great feature. And, Football Room 101 coming to a podcast near you soon.
This will happen at some point. Pep will just not play Haaland randomly, like on a 3-game week. He won't play him for 2 of the games because he'll rest him for the Champions League, and that's when I'll get you. That's when I will swoop. I've lulled you into a false sense of security, and hopefully I can start to pull this around, because it's not going well so far, is it? I was really good in week 1, and then
you were.
Your team is just Haaland. Your team is just Haaland. Have you still got Neil Maupay on the bench?
Yep.
Brilliant.
It's all about the first 11 for me. It's all about the first 11. I can't afford to waste a transfer on replacing him. More on my team in a second. But let's just put this. There you go. So
we've done that. Move on. We've done the scores.
45-point gap, and starting to pull away on the head-to-head as well. But leading the way still in our pre-match league is James Punchard, who we assume is not playing by our silly feature rules, but he's got a really comfortable 9-point lead there. Jason Warren, Paul Draper, George Bingham, and our mate Jacob Powley. But no Blue Monday presence in the top 10. But we're screwing ourselves over by following our rules. Do you want me to go first with my team this week?
Can do.
I've kept Haaland in there, but they're playing Arsenal, and I am a bit conflicted about that one. I was thinking of not captaining him because I don't think there's goals in that Arsenal game. But then you can't not, and there's no one else really in my team that I'm looking at giving the captaincy to. So what I have done is brought Jacob Greaves in because I've got a funny feeling about him from a set piece. And I've also brought in Matoma because we're not playing Brighton this week, so I can now do it. I took out Savinio, who I was really impressed with against us, but he's not really done much since, and he's a Man City player, rested, rotated, what have you. So Matoma in. I'm going 4-4-2, and I have put Hutchinson on the bench, which I have got a little bit of an awkward feeling about as well. But there's my lineup. What say you on that? Anything to criticise or?
Well, no, you've brought Greaves in, presumably for the set-piece threat that we discussed earlier, and presumably Davies will be taking said corner or said free kick for the set-piece threat, so you might double up nicely there.
Have you got that?
No, I've left him on the bench. He's my first reserve. I've left him on the bench because I've kind of kept Konza in, thinking that Wolves at Villa Park probably won't score, so that should be a fairly easy clean sheet for me. And again, I've not put Saliba in because of the double jeopardy thing with Raya, because I can't see City not scoring. I don't think there'll be many goals, but I can see that being a 1-1, for example. Cole Palmer, please, has to come good for me at some point. Was pretty poor against Bournemouth, wasn't he? Kept Salah as my captain. They're at home to Bournemouth. Surely he will register me some points and look to close you down. And I've got João Pedro in up front. Apparently he's got a knock, it says. If he doesn't feature, then Leif Davis will be my emergency substitute. And I've kept Amari Hutchinson in my side because I think he might score on. We'll go for predictions later, but I think he might score.
Yeah, that would be good. That's the differentiator. And Isak's got an eye injury. I think that's what his amber signal or yellow thing was.
Something like that, yeah. So
who knows? But we'll be back next week to talk all about it. And who knows? Seb might bloody love this feature after next weekend. We'll find out. Thank you once again to Brett Vale as well. Do get your Ipswich lineups and predictions in. That is where we are going to next. Blimey, there's a lot of stuff in the chat that I've not been looking at.
Seems to be a Jamie Peters song which has been going on. They're all singing "We've Got a Team of Jamie Peters."
Is there
throwback to 20 years ago? Was it 2005? We beat Chelsea and Man United to his signature. Brilliant.
Colin asking how many of Team Blue Monday will be at St Mary's. You will be there.
Yeah, I've never done it before. I'm making my first trip. I'm going to day trip it through the 600-mile storm, which is due to hit, apparently. So I've bizarrely never done this one. It's quite far from Chester. So, yep, I'm going to do it. And I think Craig and Joe there, potentially. Not sure. Rich won't bother. He can't be bothered these days.
No, well, I'm at West Ham. I'm trying to go to places that I've done Southampton before, and I really should be going because I need the membership points, frankly, to be able to go to other games. It's so cutthroat now, the world of membership points, isn't it? But yeah, you can find Seb. Go looking for Seb. He won't have any badges, but he'll love to chat to you about tactics and Southampton's strengths and weaknesses and so on.
Russell Martin.
Russell Martin, yeah. Flynn Downs. Ancient Tractor Boy is giving us a midfield three or an attacking midfield three of Clark, Hutchinson, Ogbena. It's kind of a combination of what we were predicting, wasn't it, Seb? Trevor starting to miss Don Goodman, who name dropped us a million times in the Wrexham Birmingham match. Did you watch that?
That was weird, wasn't it? Yeah, that was bizarre, that wasn't it?
Yep.
That was a really weird night of football, wasn't it? David Beckham was there. Obviously, Tom Brady was there. It was really strange. I remember in the past, I'm sure our League One games got about 3 minutes of promo and then went straight into it. This was billed like a Super Sunday game. It was so strange.
Talking of Wrexham, look who's here. And I presume this pertains to our FPL feature. And this is the guy we're trusting for football analysis, Anthony says. Who needs friends? Hey, Seb. But good to have you with us.
The chat. Block him. Yeah,
I'm not going to. He makes a really good point. And he also adds Cole Palmer's got an 11-year contract. Nothing to play for now. He makes a good point. ITFC Dan concurring with you. Hutchinson on the bench. Do you think this could be the differentiator in the FPL feature this week, Seb? Have you got has my shirt given you the 23-24 vibes about Southampton away?
Yeah, I think we're going to win. Yeah, I genuinely do. Yeah, I think they are struggling for goals. I think their style of play means they're very, very open. I think we proved kind of a little bit away at Brighton that we are an excellent side on the counter. I mean, if that Liam Delap run and goal had gone in, it would have been one of the goals of the season, So, yeah, I'm going to this one full of confidence. I think we're going to get 3 points on Saturday.
Streaky's going for a 0-2 Delap brace. It feels like once Delap gets a few, he'll get. I know he scored against Fulham, but I'm excited by Delap. The question is, can we keep him? Blimey, if he keeps this up, he's on a real trajectory, isn't he? Andreas going for a 1-2 Hurst brace. Great to have these abundant options up front after a little bit of scarcity. Neil's going for a 3-1. Greaves, Clark, and Burns to score after coming on, he says. We've got a full lineup from Ashley. Anything controversial there, Seb? I'm only seeing 3
He's not
defenders.
playing Leif Davis.
Yeah, so that's playing 10 players actually might be a bit limiting.
Yeah, that won't go well, yeah.
But otherwise, he's going for Ben Hutchinson and Clark as his 3. Smodrich Universe doesn't care. Best name, best profile name out there. He's going for that. And he's bringing in Hurst.
Hurst for a start. Interesting. He's done it before. Holloway, obviously, he came out of nowhere and got his start. So what did he get? Was it 20 minutes, 25 minutes last time out against Brighton? So
65, I think he came on, wasn't it?
Yeah, useful minutes in the legs. So we'll see. But I think it will be Delap and Hurst to come on the bench. Similar kind of time this weekend.
We've got a 3-0 from Ancient Tractor Boy. David, Seb is the new Harry from Bath. A real tribute to his research, different types of research.
Yeah, no, Harry was absolutely exceptional at the research job. So very kind to be compared, but Harry is by far superior.
Rando 123. Good. Don Goodman and Russell Martin are in the same room. Who do you hate the most? Hashtag bit of both, isn't it? There you go.
Absolutely.
2-0 says Stephen. Hello to Russell Martin. Blimey, he said he's had a bit of a ripped a new one.
I'm fairly sure he's not watching. I'm fairly sure it's safe.
I don't know. He's a man of detail. Who knows? Hi, Russell Martin. I was trying to be a bit more balanced, but good on you.
Hi, Russell Martin. I don't like
you lose. Rando's going for a 7-5. Love that. No workings out provided. Actually going for a 2-1, as is Colin. Nikolai's going for a 2-0. Philip's going for a 2-1. Mari on a score sheet. I'm feeling more and more unnerved about that substitute situation there. 0-1, says David, and a Russ Martin. I'm just merging the words together now. 1-2 says ITFC Dan. Ashley's back with a whoops for dropping Leif Davis and not even bringing in Connor Townsend. Marcellus is going for a 3-0. 3-1 says Irvin, star of the excellent, is it ITFC Stories thing or the Under the Skin thing? Good to see you with us. And he's going Delap, Smods, Clark. So, mate, how about Delap right and then Smodrich, Clark, and Hurst up front? Whoa.
Delap could feel that run. Like we say, we saw that run that he did. That was that must have been an 80-yard run, perhaps. Yeah, if he can do that halfway through the second half, then there's no reason that direct running power, that pace, that acceleration, that could certainly lend itself excellently to that right wing role. But he probably is third choice at this point behind Burns and Ogbene, isn't he, for that role? Fair
dues. We've got Michael reminding us bizarrely the bottom 4 of the bottom 6 teams play each other this weekend.
That is a huge game. It's at Goodison, I think, isn't it? The Leicester game. That's a huge game.
Who's the first man to go? Do you think it's Deitch?
No, I don't think it will. I don't think it will be because they've got very little structure behind them, haven't they? So I'd be surprised. I know the trouble is Moyes is out of a job, isn't he? David Moyes is on the market, so there's a certain romantic notion about him coming in, saving Everton, and taking them into their new stadium, which potentially could happen. But I just think that there's all these rumors about selling the club, and is a new buyer really going to want a manager sacked to only have to appoint another one if they do a takeover? So I think Dyche is probably pretty safe for now, which sounds crazy, but I think that might be the case. But as I said earlier, I think if Southampton continue being so open, conceding so many goals and struggling for points, maybe not the October break, but come the November break, Russell Martin could be in serious trouble.
There you go. Said with no bias whatsoever. Seb, thank you as always for your excellent research, your witty insights, and your crapness at FPL, at least for the current time. We'll see what happens next week, week 5. Amari Hutchinson is going to do the job for you. I've got a feeling it's going to be your week on the FPL, so don't worry too much about that. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you are 1 millionth viewer on YouTube, we appreciate you. But all of you, thank you so much for watching in such great numbers, being really interactive in the chat. We appreciate you giving up your Thursday. If you're listening to us on the way down to Southampton, let us know about that as well. We'd love to hear about that. If you're doing a Seb round and traveling down there, give us plenty of noise for that one. The guys will be back on Sunday for the Flagship Show, but as always, plenty of other bits and pieces to keep you entertained in the build-up in terms of Blue Monday Rewind and the prediction show. And you can watch this again. Why not? Give us some more views. That'd be even better. Please do give us a thumbs up before you leave. Subscribe as well. And if you're listening on your podcast app of choice, a 5-star rating and a review would be fantastic. We just appreciate you being part of it, though. Thank you so much, everyone, as always. And Seb, I need to give a shout out, by the way, to our friends at Blue Monday. We are sponsoring Lucy O'Brien this season. There's a lot of people. I would read your names, but I'm running out of time. But your names are in the end credits, so please give that a watch. Thank you to them for contributing and supporting our sponsorship of Lucy O'Brien. And come on, you Blues, come on, ITFC Women as well on Sunday. So I'm handing over to Seb.
Do you remember at the start of the show when you said you wouldn't forget to do the predictions this time?
Well, you did your prediction. I didn't do mine.
You haven't done yours. Yeah, you haven't done yours.
1-1.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, you said lose last week. We're kind of I'm flipping the script. I'm flipping the roles. I'm going to go for the more pragmatic thing. I think it's going to be a tough game.
Stop talking. We can't end it on that.
Thank you, David, for the end it. Yeah,
David, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you for bringing some positivity as Rich tries to take us
you
down.
I'll be the defeat last week, so you can.
That was Brighton away. This is Southampton away with a rubbish manager. It's straightforward. Don't worry about it. Yeah, come on, everyone, enjoy it. Come and say hello to me if you see me at Southampton. Let's sing loud. Let's be proud. Let's get 3 points and let's really annoy Russell Martin. Come on, you Blues.